The thing that I gathered from all this is the lack of fear. I wasn't really afraid, even when that thing was right over top of us, and when I fell on that thing's feet, and when it picked me up and put me in the car, I still was hanging out of the car window trying to see what I could see, and wanting to go back up over the hill and find it again. I wasn't afraid, and I was more like euphoric.
Welcome to episode 3 of this summer's limited podcast series, 100 Days of Mothman, brought to you by the Caffeinated Cryptid Podcast Network. All summer long, we're diving deep with eyewitnesses, paranormal researchers, scientists, and filmmakers to explore the mystery, madness, and legacy of the Mothman. Episode 3 features a first-hand account from eyewitness Linda Sigman, whose terrifying 1967 encounter may be one of the clearest Mothman sightings ever recorded. At just 16 years old, Linda and her boyfriend were stargazing near Pomeroy, Ohio, when they noticed a glowing red star that descended silently until it blotted out the entire night sky. Moments later, Mothman appeared, flying alongside their speeding car in a moment that would change their life forever. In this episode, Linda shares her chilling memories and insights from her book Beyond the Pale Moonlight, a UFO Mothman encounter, and thoughts on Men in Black, Chief Cornstalk, and the Silver Bridge disaster. This isn't just a legend, it's a lived experience, and it adds a deeply human layer to the Mothman mystery. Once again, I am Bobby, host of the Caffeinated Cryptid Podcast Network, and this is episode 3 of 100 Days of Mothman. You can watch the full video on YouTube or listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHEARTRADIO, and several other of your favorite audio apps, or catch the whole series anytime at mothman100.com. And please be kind once again. Please like, subscribe, follow, and share. It helps me way more than you know. Now, no more waiting. Here's When the Mothman Blocked Out the Stars with Linda Sigman on episode 3 of 100 Days of Mothman. I like the Point Pleasant Mothman, we'll call him that, the West Virginia, because it has a beginning. You know, it happens in the, what was the Gravediggers?
November the 13th, 1966.
What was the Gravedigger's name? The Gravediggers, Cohinton?
They were in Clendenin.
Clendenin, yeah. I just talked about that 2 days ago. Clendenin. And then the next day is when Scarberry and Bennett saw it, like 2 days later.
As the crow flies, I don't think it's very far. Maybe 20-minute drive from West Virginia, half an hour. I know I've probably been to Clendenin, but I have friends that just went to the cemetery and found the grave of the guy that was being buried by those grave diggers, and talked to the people and took some video of the surrounding area, which I found very interesting because you could almost imagine what those guys saw back then coming over those trees. And
that whole saga just starts there. And it pretty much ends at the tragedy of the Silver Bridge. And I'm supposing there's other stuff that happened because there was sightings after that, but like it was kind of awkward to talk about. Like, okay, everybody's kind of like, yeah, let's not worry about that for now. Our town is kind of destroyed for a minute. And so I could imagine, I saw Mothman, dude. Chill about Mothman for a minute, all right? And then Small Town Monsters, Seth Breedlove did Mothman Legacy. And I'm glad he did because it starts off after the Silver Bridge. And so you get some extra stuff to know that it didn't just end and it wasn't some kind of weird flash in the pan phenomenon that the locals were just coming up with. I thought your power went out. Yeah, we're summoning Mothman.
You were talking about Mothman. Now see, that's another thing. I'm what they call a slider. Ever since, before that, I was pretty... all through my childhood, I was like that. But afterwards, it's just amped up, and I affect all kinds of electrical equipment, and lights will come and go. And,
let me ask you this: Have you ever had a near-death experience?
I have astral travel, which I think is pretty much the same thing. I don't like to go under anesthesia because of it. But no, to say that I've actually knew that it was a near-death experience caused by a trauma, no. But I have met my mother, and she's been gone since 98. I've spent time with her in my dreams, and several other people and animals and things like that. So just about every aspect of as my life is just.
You've checked every box but the trauma.
Yeah. Oh, I've had trauma.
Yeah. I've noticed
We all have.
I've noticed in doing this, like the Bigfoot podcast and the Ghost podcast and the Alien Abductee podcast, that people that have the craziest just onslaught of the sightings all have an NDE from some kind of traumas. That's why I was asking.
I think my trauma was when I had, even though I didn't understand that's what it was, because I put it in the back of my mind, is when that creature picked me up.
Yeah.
Because after I was regressed and was able to remember everything, I was okay. I have PTSD from it. And I was okay for a while, but then I just about lost it because anytime I would come across anything Mothman or anything like that, it was hard for me. And that was 2017. So I lived with it for a long time.
Yeah. Another factor that caused me to ask that was you said you saw your guardian angel when you were 3 and a gray alien when you were 5. I'm like, I wonder if she had like something happen when she was born or younger than that. Because that's.
It runs in my family. I don't know whether you've ever heard of Sylvia Brown.
Sylvia Brown?
Sylvia Brown was a well-known psychic. She's in my family tree. She's like a 6th cousin, once or twice or 3 times removed, but she's in the shoemakers, and that's on my grandpa's side. But my mother's was psychic. I am. My sister is, but she doesn't embrace it because it frightens her.
I think I saw a podcast on her before.
Sylvia, yeah. Her son Chris now takes it over and does readings and things. A lot of people find her controversial. I've gone to see her at a couple of places. When she was in Cincinnati, was one of them, and it was pretty interesting. She did a thing where it was like if you have a fear, she would tell you how to get rid of it. And I guess it was sort of like a self-hypnosis type of deal. She sent you into like a trance, and I had a horrible fear of flying. I mean, there was no way I was ever going to fly, ever. Now, I don't know what that came from, but it doesn't bother me now. And spiders. I was afraid of spiders, and I pick them up and put them outside.
You could cover me in spiders, and I wouldn't think much about it. But I can't even touch a snake's skin once it's shed it.
That's my daughter. She hates snakes. But as far as trauma, I think my life has been traumatic from the time I was little because of the experiences I've had. And my mother wouldn't talk to me about it, even though she had them too, until I was like in my 40s. And then we had some long talks. And she said that when I was born, that she had a near-death experience. And Jesus told her that she would be fine and she could see the tree of life. And she said, I saw all these people coming out of the tree of life. And she said, I saw relatives and people I didn't know, and they were all climbing out of these different limbs. And Jesus told her that I would be a special child. She said she didn't know what that meant until I got older. And, I had all these abilities. But her mother, too, was born with a midwife, and she was born in the amniotic sac was over her face. And they call that being born with a veil over your face. And that's supposed to be a sign of, I know that's woo-woo, but that's supposed to be a sign of psychic ability. But so it was on her dad and her mom. And then my dad's side, his mother, she could tell the future, and she knew when she was going to pass away. And she had all kinds of experiences. She lived down below Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and she saw Black Panthers and what they called the hairy man. So.
Okay, so she had a Bigfoot sighting.
Yes, she did. just about 5 to 10 miles below, in Apple Grove, West Virginia, down below Point Pleasant. Also, I have found that people that many people that I've talked to that had Mothman experiences, or the children of the people that saw it, the Mothman, or had some type of experience with him, were relatives of Chief Cornstalk, and so many.
Mm-hmm.
And he was my 7th great grandfather, and the boy that I was with was 3/4 Cherokee. So I think that Mothman came to certain people that were in that lineage. Now, I can't tell you why, but I think it's supernatural of some type to keep them from going down there on that bridge and in that area, because after I had that experience, it was a while before I went back down there, but I did. And that's when I saw the men in black and had the dream of the bridge falling and stuff. But I've talked to so many, even Jeff Walmsley, his wife, found out she is in the Cornstalk lineage. And so is Faye DeWitt Laporte. And she's the one that saw Mothman running beside the car.
Yeah, that she had the Mothman on the hood, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
I
love Faye. She's awesome.
She is a great story.
Now,
how did you find out you were in the Cornstalk lineage? Is that just known your whole life, or?
Oh, that was interesting. My grandfather, it's through them, through the Shoemakers.
Is it official?
I'm sorry?
Is it official that you're in there? Is it?
Oh yeah.
Not just a rumor or anything?
No. We did my grandfather's cousin, Harriet Casto. She's also related to the Shoemakers. They shared the same Shoemaker clan. Grandmother, I guess. Let's see how that goes. My grandpa, Homer Casto, his mother was a shoemaker. Harriet was a niece of my great grandma shoemaker. So she worked in Washington, D.C., and she had the archives and different things, and she was notable over there, and she had money, and she traced a family tree. And one day she came over to see us, and she brought this information to my mother, and then I got to look, and once I got a computer and found all these people she had written down way back the lineage. The Shoemakers came from Alsace, France. And they came over here, and anyway, it was through some of their relatives was the Vanderpools, and it was through Catherine Vanderpool, and she was a third wife of Chief Cornstalk. And then there was Catherine Vanderpool, and then she had a daughter named Elizabeth. And Elizabeth was married to young Chief Cornstalk, which is the one they call Hard Striker. And I don't have this all down in front of me. It's just this.
You're doing fine.
So don't Anyway, Elizabeth had children with young Chief Cornstalk, and then she married a shoemaker man, and then, but this is my lineage through the Cornstalk kids.
That's legit then.
Yeah. And then I talked to Chief Don Wood, a Shawnee, and he told about it too, and we talked about it. And he's on. You can find him on Facebook.
Oh yeah. I've done a lot of reading on the Battle of the Shawnee. I can't think, Battle of Point Pleasant or whatever it's called, or how they wiped out the Shawnee and took him prisoner. That is like a prequel in and of itself of the whole thing.
My birthday is October 10th, and that battle was October 10th.
Yeah, that's how it stuck in my brain what your birthday was. You put the. It's not hard to. I bet you passed every test in school.
Well, no, I hated school.
They didn't even put when the Battle of Chief Cornstalk was on your test.
Yeah, but that was before I had all this experience. Well, I went, let's see, that I had my experience in 67, and I graduated the next year when I was 17 in May of 68. So, but I had Ohio history, and we didn't have West Virginia history. We had Ohio history. But and not a whole lot about the Indians.
There wasn't a ton of them in your area back then. They didn't really sell
They
much.
travel through.
Yeah.
Like I go down and I have a big arrowhead collection. I collect paleo stuff, mostly like from a couple thousand years ago.
Clovis and whatnot.
Clovis points and stuff. You'll find a lot of those near the river. But I have Clovis. A creek down here. And I have boxes upon boxes and boxes of celts and grinders and things like that. But I haven't found very many arrowheads here. I've found a couple from the woodland era, because they didn't stay here. They passed through, and they stayed closer to. They had their homes closer to the river. I'm probably 5 miles, 6 miles from the Ohio River, but there's a lot of hills and stuff here. But they wanted to build, right up on the banks.
Yeah.
And, but I do find stuff, but it's older stuff.
Yeah, all the ones you find around here are right on the Tennessee River. You have to get almost on the river to find them. My grandpa was obsessed with them. He's got boxes, like you said. Tomahawks. I used to want to cut a tree down with one of them tomahawks he found. He never would let me touch it.
I have a couple.
They're so cool. Let me ask you about your sighting itself. One of the UFOs that you saw, I think it was the smaller one, had a burst of bright light. Did you get conjunctivitis from that at all?
People have asked me that.
Yeah.
And,
first thing I thought.
I got down on the floor when it went up over. So I think that's the only thing that saved me. Plus, I didn't get out. Even though it was close to us, all the time it was close to us, it was like an iridescent light or incandescent. What do you call them when they're, those lights you flip on and they're long and they're blue and
fluorescent.
Fluorescent. I don't know if they even make those much anymore, but it was like a fluorescent light. It was blue-white, and it didn't hurt to look at it. But when that thing went from his side of the car around to the front of the car and stopped right at the hood, or at the bumper, it just sat there. And we looked in it and tried to figure out. At that point, I think we were both so numb that we weren't really all that scared until the thing started to rise up. And then it rose up, and then it went up over the car, and then's when everything was right. And then he was like this over the steering wheel, and I was on the floor. And then after it went, and there was no sound with it ever either, I got out my side, he got out his side. And I walked around the front, and he walked around, and we met in the back. And I said, "It's gone." He said, "I know." And there was nothing. It was just real quiet.
Yeah, that portion of your story sounded just like I don't have the name in front of me, but the couple that did get the conjunctivitis, it sounded like the exact same timeline.
I was a kid back then. If I did, it didn't appear to affect me in any way other than it was like it was downloaded with something, or whatever you call it. Because when we went across the bridge after we had our encounter, for him to take me home, we went across the Pomeroy Mason Bridge. I said, "I feel funny." He said, "I do too." He said, "How do you feel?" I said, like somebody went in my brain and swept
Mhm.
it out and put something in there. So I feel the same way. I didn't know, we didn't have computers back then, or I would have said, I felt like they put something in my mind or uploaded, you know. And after that, uh, that's when the things started really happening. The dreams and hearing the kids in school and um,
Mhm.
hearing the thoughts and feeling all those emotions. That my senior year was tough because I couldn't hardly go to school. I just I couldn't be around all that. Imagine, you know,
Mhm.
teenagers anyway. Oh gee,
Yeah, I can't
oh
imagine
gee.
that.
It was a hard year.
Now, you had the what was I going to ask? I was thinking about how hard it would be to be a teenager with that. Um, you had the missing time,
Hmm.
and then you had the regression, and you went back and found out you were outside on the quilt. Your boyfriend's over here, and you got put in the car. He got taken out. Did anything else happen? You know, you were at the foot of the Mothman. Did anything else happen that you remembered after that
Uh,
for 30 minutes? I mean, that was just a little short time.
there, my therapist was. She retired in 2019 or 2020. The woman I went to Circleville, she did this. This is what she did was regression and help therapy, you know.
Hmm.
And she said, "I want you to come back." And I said, "Right now I can't because I had too much on my mind with it." And she said, "Promise me you'll come back." And I said, "Give me a little bit to, uh, to get to think about this and get used to the idea of what happened to me because I could remember. It wasn't that it was something that was implanted. You
Hmm.
can watch that regression. It's online. You could probably find it.
Hmm.
And anyway, she said, I'd like you to come back. And I said, I won't tell you no. And then she retired and I lost contact. But I would now probably because I remember when I could remember feeling cool air. I could see the dark. I could see everything. I thought, oh, nobody's going to hypnotize me. I'm not gonna be able to do that. You know, Uh, what it was just I could remember it. There was like a block there, and it was like it was lifted. But I got to a certain point that I was frantic, so she had to bring me out. And she said, "I think that you had a lot more happen to you than what you thought." And
Hmm.
I got to thinking about it. You know, why would they even bother coming over there to us? Um, he was such a handsome young guy, real dark and dark eyes, and I wasn't a bad looking kid. And I thought, they probably got DNA, and it's hard to tell. And
Very Barney and Betty Hill reminiscent.
yes,
That's the first thing I thought of when I read that particular part. Is it reminded me just like Barney and Betty.
yeah, and it's in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Is that right?
Oh, them? I have to look.
I think so.
I haven't been
But
obsessed with that phenomenon this year like I have this one.
but when I could he got a quilt from his grandma because his birthday was,
Hmm.
oh dear, are you ready for this? 75 years ago today.
Oh my gosh,
Hmm.
is he still alive with us?
I think he's had so many heart problems and stuff. Lives in Columbus. 75 years ago
Wow,
today.
today
Today.
that happened today or
Well,
75 years
it was
ago
his
today?
birthday. His
Oh,
birthday.
okay,
His birthday.
okay.
So that happened in the second week in April. I think it was after that. And his grandma Smith had got him a quilt. She made him one, and he had it in the back of his car. So when we pulled in there, and he got the quilt and he put it out on the hood of the car, it was warm, and it was getting dark, and we were just laying there against the glass of the car. He had a
Mhm.
'56 Chevy, and just he kept looking over to his right, and I said, "What are you looking at?" He said, "That star over there. Look at it." I said, that doesn't look right. And then, of course, it burst through the clouds like a supernova, just bang, here it comes.
Like, why is it getting bigger?
Yeah, it got bigger, and it was closer than what I thought. Because when you see something big like that, you think full moon, so I thought it was way over there, but it wasn't. It was less than a football field from us, probably about a football field. And then it started moving, and then it came over to us and came over top of us. And we were just laying there, and the next thing I know, he's gone. And I remember sliding on that quilt trying to get off the front. And I burnt my leg on the grill of that Chevy. I can remember, I felt it. When I was hypnotized, I felt that hotness on the back of my leg, and I just slipped right down on the ground onto the pair of big feet. And I can remember I just sort of fell forward and kind of leaned up and looked up, and all I could see was legs, and I went back a little bit, and I still couldn't see it because it was so tall. And next thing I remember, it picking me up, but it was very gentle. But I remember it felt cold. Its skin was like snake. And I didn't see any feathers, and I didn't see any big red eyes. Of course, I never really looked it right in the face because I didn't want to. So I didn't know what the heck had hold of me.
Well, it did have wings, didn't it?
Yes, it had wings. But they were down.
Yeah.
But its arms were attached to the wings like a bat. Its arms were loose.
Yeah, like regular arms.
Yeah, arms and fingers. It had fingers like we do, long fingers. I know it had me like by one. I weighed less than 100 pounds. I was little. And it got me and held me and opened that car door. It was open, but he was just sitting in there in some kind of state. And I can still remember that car door opening, and the window was down, and it opened that car door and pulled him out, and he just stood there, and he just put me in, and I crawled across because it was a bench seat, and I thought I was just well, I was dumbfounded. And then he got in, and when the car door went bang, I remember it sort of startled me, and I looked up and looked at him, and he was just still in that state. And over to the left of the front fender there stood that creature. So I got a good look at it from the side. And I looked up at the UFO. It was still there. And he said, "We got to get out of here." And he tried to start the car, and he finally got it going. We started pulling forward. And that creature, I don't know why I didn't see it, but I don't know if he was just tall enough that he couldn't. But it went from the bumper at the left part of the car up over and up into the trees across the road in one swoop. I mean, it didn't flap its wings. It didn't make any noise. It just put its arms back like Superman, and out it went.
The not flapping thing is crazy to me because nobody ever reports it flapping.
Somebody said to me, "Oh, maybe it had some kind of backpack." I was like, nope. It was a man-shaped creature with a head and wings. It just put them back. They were down, but then he put them out and back, and it just went. It was gone. And I said, "Oh my God, did you see it?" And we were going forward, and as we left, the UFO was going too, and it went straight. And then when we got out to the road that we came in on, which was we were facing it, we made a sharp left, and rocks were just flying everywhere.
I bet.
And
I would
I
have.
said, look at it, look at it, look at it, look at it. And he's like, I'm trying to get us out of here. I see it. And I said, you don't see it? And he said, it's a UFO. And I said, no, it's a creature. It's that Mothman. It's that Birdman's what I called it. And he said, I don't see any Birdman. Down over the hill he went. And I looked out, and it was sitting in those trees across the road. It's like, oh, shit.
Now, part of that was from your regression. The other part's from stuff you actually remembered happening. Do you remember
that? Always remember. The only part of the regression was how I got in the car. All that other stuff I knew.
Does it feel different to remember the part that's regression now than it was to remember the part you actually experienced real time?
It all feels the same, like it all happened, and but
it all came together.
All came together, but I know in my heart there's more.
Yeah, I'd say there was, because you just didn't end up with that weird feeling for nothing.
That summer, I wasn't well. Well, I wasn't well after that. All that fall, I missed a lot of school. Part of it was trauma. Part of it, I talked to my mom and dad about it, and they're like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk about it. That generation.
Yep.
People will come around here. You tell people, and they'll come around here, and we'll have the FBI over here, and that man that's snooping around down there, a government man, he'll be up here. And my dad didn't want any, And so I minded what he said for the most part.
He probably didn't. That probably wasn't bad advice as far as what we know now.
Because we lived right in town,
Did they ever come to your house, the Men in Black?
No.
Or are you just the ones you saw going shopping?
I just saw those down at Point Pleasant. No, nobody ever bothered me because I kept my mouth shut. But kids just teased me. Linda's witch, Linda's witch, Linda's witch, and I was real quiet. And
they called you a witch?
Call me a witch, Linda's witch. Imagine.
Like you're the only person that didn't see it. That's.
I know.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not. It was Point Pleasant in '67. Everyone's a witch. If you weren't a witch, I would say they were the ones that were being bastardized. If they weren't,
they were terrible.
How about you? Not a witch, you weirdo, you muggle.
Yeah, I tell them now, boy. It's that thing. If you could go back now, oh man, can you imagine? If I could go back now, I'd be on that ship with those guys. I would.
You'd go to Linalos or whatever it's called.
I'd go to Linalos, yes.
With Woody and the gang.
Speaking of him, my ex-husband, that was his cousin.
Did you ever meet him?
No, but his other cousins, my ex-husband's other cousins that were cousins with Woody, they would go to the reunions. And they said that he was adamant that he saw that thing. And it's strange, too, where Woodrow Durenberger saw... I can't think of his name. That's right.
Indrid?
Indrid Cold is, I live real close to where that happened. The interstate's only about 5 miles from me.
And the way you described the UFO, one or two of them, it reminded me of Indrid Cold's craft that Woody saw.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it
was big, though. The first one was giant. Now, the second one, it was only about the size of a Volkswagen.
Yeah, the second one.
Beetle.
Reminded me of Indrid's.
It's all the same creatures. My grandma saw them. My grandpa saw those smaller ones. All their neighbors saw them. And I didn't know it till years later that the neighbors all saw them. When I talked to my grandmother and grandfather's neighbor's daughter, I saw her in the hospital in the 90s when I took my mom down there for some treatments. And I got to talking to her, and I said, your mom and dad saw those UFOs in the 60s. She said, yeah, she saw it too. And I said, they said it was, all down through there. And she said, yeah, almost everybody that lived on Route 7 from the fairgrounds in Pomeroy out to the river saw them. You could set your clock by them, 3 o'clock every morning. Some people would go out and sit and watch those things go down Route 7 and go out to the river and go upriver and then come back and either go back out the way they came. Now, where they were going from there, I don't know, or they go towards Point Pleasant. So
I made the comment that I don't know why the place wasn't swarmed by the military, like at the end of that movie E.T., as much activity as you could depend on happening back then.
I know.
Unless they knew about it.
They knew about it, I think, and they wanted to keep it quiet. I think that there were, I know this is hearsay, but I know from some reputable sources that there are tunnels from the TNT area to where the bridge was, where they used to move the TNT and the bomb stuff that they made to put in bombs, through those tunnels to the bridge, to the boats, and then they'd move them up or down river to wherever they were supposed to be. And I don't think that because of the Cold War, I don't think that our government wanted anybody messing around enough to wonder why they were down there, because they would find out that I think that stuff, was still stored down under there. I've heard of people being in those tunnels within the past maybe, I don't know, 25 years maybe, and saying that there's still creatures and different weird things going on in those tunnels. Now, I've been in the igloos, but these were tunnels that went from the old TNT plant to underground to the river, which wasn't that far away. 2 miles maybe.
It's not beyond the government to do something like that. I mean, if you look at Montauk, it's the same sort of scenario. One of the most interesting parts about your sighting, which makes it, as of today, one of my favorite sightings, even though it's reminiscent of all the other ones with the car chase and missing time. It's very, very textbook. But the fact that your family saw it happen at a bird's eye or an aerial view while it was happening, that's insane. Yes. That's crazy. Amazing? They all saw it happen.
That white one, the small one that went up over top of us, it just kept going over top of I call it a mountain.
Yeah.
And then it rose up over top of that mountain, which was across the river from where my mom and dad were sitting on the front porch. And they saw it, the very one that we saw, come up over the mountain and turn to their left and go, just barely made it over the bridge. My dad said that. Yeah.
I love these maps.
That's all from my head. So
no, this is my favorite part of the book.
Oh,
it shows like what exactly happened. Like, look at Grandma's house up there at the top, and your house is down here by my hand. But imagine, like, I know how it looks to look out because it's kind of similar terrain around here with the smaller mountains.
Yeah,
I can imagine what it would look like to see like well, what the hell is that?
That's just exactly what you said.
And because my grandma lived 3 miles from us too.
Yeah.
And so it's like they see it here.
Yeah.
You get home, you think you're in trouble, and all of a sudden, y'all see them UFOs?
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, oh, what I do now? He knew. He knew we were out there sitting in the dark.
Yeah, I didn't know where the book was going when you said the guy he got the quilt out. I'm like, oh, what kind of book is this? What's about to happen? Some kind of Danielle Steele novel I'm about to read.
Oh, yeah. Lady Chatterley's lover.
Yeah. Like, what was the pale moonlight?
No.
What did they say about the missing time? Like, did you compare notes?
Me and him, you mean? I couldn't get him to talk about it.
No, I mean, like when you got home, what did they say
I couldn't get them to talk to me much about it either. I can just remember that I left at 7:15 and it was almost 9 when I got back. And, it wasn't long that we were out there at that place before it started getting dark, and we saw it, come the big one. And then we went down over the hill and sat down there for, just less than 10 minutes. And here came the small one. And then it went up over us. And then we went across the bridge and we went up to Pomeroy, which is right along the river, and sat and looked over towards his house, which was right on the other side of the Ohio River, and looked across the hill and saw some white lights. And then we went home, and it was what, an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, and it's like, what happened to that time? Where we were from where I lived real close to the Pomeroy Mason Bridge, which probably took 6 or 7 minutes to get to where we were parked on that hill across the river. And if we were over there, say 15 minutes, that's just a little over 20 minutes. And then what happened all that time after that thing was on top of us? Because it came almost immediately. And we went right down over the hill, which was a quarter of a mile.
Everything seems so 5 minutes away, and you lost it, and you took 2 hours. Like it's got to be noticeable.
There was at least a half an hour. I would say half an hour, 45 minutes. I mean, it had to have been, because we didn't waste any time going home, really, after went across the bridge and just drove up to Pomeroy and then back down and to my house, which was 2 miles, because I used to walk that sometimes from school, because I wanted to, just to get out of that place. So, but I walked home a lot.
Now, you only saw the quote unquote Mothman with the first craft. Nothing with the second, nothing with the smaller one.
No, but I felt like that thing was alive. We talked about that. My boyfriend and I talked about that. It seemed like I didn't know the word entity. I'm sure I'd heard it, but I didn't know how to put that into context. It felt like if it could have, it would have spoke to us. And because the thing that I gathered from all this is the lack of fear. I wasn't really afraid, even when that thing was right over top of us, and when I fell on that thing's feet, and when it picked me up and put me in the car, I still was hanging out of the car window trying to see what I could see, and wanting to go back up over the hill and find it again. I wasn't afraid, and I was more like euphoric. It was like when a couple summers ago I went to see the Grand Canyon, and I was amazed. I mean, I'd always seen it on TV and things, but to see that thing in person, you're in awe. You're spellbound. And I think that is how I felt when I saw that creature.
You don't have ADHD, do you?
I'm sorry?
Do you have ADHD?
Oh, I probably do.
I was thinking because the few times I had a real paranormal experience, I wasn't scared at all either. Like I was in like I was solving a puzzle almost, and I always thought I'd be freaking out. But
I'm not afraid of anything.
They say that ADHD people think slower in situations like that, so maybe your fear wasn't there.
No, I'm sure I do. I think I'm above average intelligence. I've always scored well on tests and things, and things were easy for me. But I'm one of those type of people that I didn't really apply myself as much as I could have.
Same.
You know what I mean?
I'm regretting that in my 40s.
But I'm an artist, and I paint. Now I paint Bigfoot and a Mothman. And
oh yeah, how did the appearance of the creature, the Mothman, compare to Bigfoot? Appearance-wise, maybe smell-wise.
Did you see the picture in my book?
Yeah, I did.
Does that look like a Bigfoot?
Yeah, that's one of the things. Like very similar.
I drew that on the way home on a piece of paper that was in the glove compartment. I said, I have a picture in my head of what that thing looked like. And see how little I am.
Yeah, the way you described it as being 10 feet tall with the giant feet and everything, I'm like, I wonder if they're not some derivative or relative or something like that.
I think so. The one that I saw out here, I saw one Bigfoot. That's it. See, spirits,
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff, animals, uh, ghosts, Bigfoot, all kinds of creatures um, are attracted to me and me to them. But I think they're all from the same realm. Uh, that's why the Bigfoot out here, I can't say definitively that yes, it's a Bigfoot, but I know what I saw and I know what I've collected and researched since 2017. My next book's going to be Bigfoot. Um,
That'll be
I've
cool.
been,
I didn't know that Mark Randall helped you with this book.
yes,
That's
he's a
the
wonderful man.
Steve Ward book too. I didn't.
Yeah, Mark helps a lot of people. He's quite the digital creator.
Hey, the Steve Ward book is the Cliff Notes to the Point Pleasant.
Yes,
This is like the notes on it.
yes, the big red eyes. Or as um, what's her name? Uh, she says the big red eyes. I loved it. Faye DeWitt, Laporte.
Hmm.
All I can remember was those big red eyes. I love her.
Have you ever seen her on the Mysteries Decoded on the CW, where they interview her for the Mothman? She does it on. That's one of her better interviews I found.
No, but I've seen just about all of them. Plus, I talked to her personally.
Yeah, so you know her.
Eh,
So
Yeah, we spent the day together down there at the festival for 2 days
I may
last
make it up
year.
there. I may make it up
Oh,
there.
you have to go. It's so much fun. It's family friendly too, and there's music and food
Hmm.
and
Well, I'm starting this podcast series 100 days before the festival. It's going to be called 100 Days of Mothman
so
to
awesome.
kind of lead the hype up. Whether I go or not. It's 8 hours away.
You have to go. Well, you come here and stay. You're always welcome. Yeah,
Go
you can
stay at
crash here.
They closed
You've
that
already-
hotel, didn't they? The Low.
Somebody bought it. They did close it, but someone bought it, and we're
Hmm.
hoping that they'll open it up. I don't know if they'll open it up to customers or just to have people come in, but um, there's
Hmm.
there's bed and breakfast not too far from me. Like I said, we have a big house.
Now
So,
that's where supposedly, Richard Gere character that's supposed to be John Keel stayed when he was there, wasn't it? The Low.
I think he stayed over in Gallipolis,
Oh, across
which
the
is
river.
across the river in a little hotel over there. He may at one time or another um, been at the Low Hotel, but I can't remember the name. It's been a while since I've read the book. I'm going to have to read it again. That book.
That's where John
That,
Keel stayed. I meant like for Richard Gere's character. I think
oh
he,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. In the movie, he did.
that's where Connie took him,
Yeah,
aka
yeah.
Miss
Connie
Blair.
took him there, but John Keel stayed over in
Yeah,
Gallipolis.
he stayed everywhere. That dude.
Yeah.
I wish I had his travel budget.
Oh my. Yeah, they were in those hills not too far from where my grandma
Hmm.
lived when she grew up.
That was one of the
My dad's side.
that was one of the examples. Is he would go up those hills every night and see that stuff y'all were seeing. And I was like,
Mhm.
why is the military not swarming this coverage every night?
Just because we're Hicks.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
they tells me they knew about it.
they knew. Of course they did. Like I said, um, they had things going on down there that
Yeah.
they didn't want people to know. They didn't want to draw any more attention to it. And I don't think the military had anything to do at all with the bridge collapsing.
Nah,
I just think
it was
that
just old.
it just happened.
No, I don't think Mothman did either. I don't
No.
know if the two
Oh,
maybe
I think it was related, but I think that Mothman was
wasn't.
there to keep people from being on it.
Yeah, he
Oh,
wasn't like
that
the
night.
cause of it.
Oh, that night that I went across, it was 2 weeks before it fell.
Hmm.
And my thoughts were, I shouldn't be on this thing. I shouldn't. And it swung just like a swing, back and forth, back and forth. And I can remember looking in the river and seeing the lights. And I remember that's the thing about my brain. I can't remember what I did yesterday, but I
Hey,
can remember things so vividly in my mind.
did you know that Mary Hire and everybody else was having the same dreams, or did you find that out after the fact about the presence and the tragedy?
I read the book. I was shocked.
Oh, the John Keel book, and you found that out?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I was shocked. And then there was the movie, and they showed it pretty much like I saw in my dream. There were other people too that had that dream. Lots of people.
Yeah, there was dozens from what I
Hmm.
hear, from what I remember.
I don't know whether Faye had it or not. I'll have to ask her.
Mary Hire had it, and at
Hmm.
least two others that John Keel
Oh,
knew,
there was a bunch. Hmm.
and Connie, Sheriff Connie's character was Mary Hire
Yes,
for like, well, she was 4 or 5 put in. They did a lot of
she,
consolidation.
they
That book was
did.
all that book was all over the place.
It was sensationalized to make a movie, but that's okay too. It was an interesting movie, and there were some real parts in it.
Hmm.
Um,
They did a good job of encapsulating the story and making
they
it
did.
palpable
They
for the
did.
least common public. What the one thing I would change, and I even heard John Keel liked it. Steve Ward told me John Keel liked it. The movie said it did a good job. One thing I didn't like
Hmm.
was how they took Gordy or Gordon, what his name was, which
Yes.
was Woody,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they kind of made him seem like a crazy person because he wasn't. Woody was a blue collar guy that down to earth, and they made Gordy sound like he was insane.
He was a shoe salesman, wasn't he? Or yeah, he
I'd
worked
have
in
to look at it,
Marietta.
but
Yeah, he
he
was.
killed himself in the woods. Why did he do that?
No,
Gordy didn't do that, or Woody didn't do that.
Woody didn't do that. He died of no, and his daughter just passed away here a couple years ago, and but she held on to what her dad said that it
Hmm.
was all true, and they had contact up until Woody died, and then afterwards, and so
It'd be a
there's a
hell of
lot
a
of truth.
it'd be a hell of a something to make up though if he did. I mean, that's a cinematic universe. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I mean, why would he? A lot of that stuff, like what's his name, Todd Urey.
Mhm.
He's the one that saw it above his head. Who was the one? Tad. Who was Tad that saw the thing on the road and he came back home and there was a letter on his door saying, "We know what you saw. Quit talking about it."
I can't
There's
remember.
there's a Tad and a Todd and there's a Connie
Okay.
and
Yeah.
there's like 7 Connies. I, Everybody's name's Connie.
Yeah.
If Connie or Bennett, so there was Scarberry and Bennett. They saw they had the TNT.
Linda Scarberry. Yeah. The Malay.
Who is the one that Mallet? Mallet's the one that
Malay. Yeah.
one that saw the thing in the yard holding the baby.
Yes. And she dropped the baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a crazy story.
But the baby's probably screaming and squirming, and I don't think it was a newborn baby,
Like 2
But
years
yeah,
old, I believe.
it tried to get in the house. Now I had Bigfoot out here that tried to get in my house one night, and my son was here, and my granddaughter, and we both experienced a night of siege.
Really?
Well, it was in March 2 years ago, and they pounded on every area of this house, and these windows. It's like a tri level, and these windows go clear to the ground, and then there's about 20 feet down below them. Something was knocking on these windows in the back of the house here, and that it would have had to have been 10, 15 feet tall. And we'd go out and look and be gone. But they were just like boom, 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 till like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it finally stopped.
Now, around that time, like the 66, 67 time frame, how was the Bigfoot sighting activity around Point Pleasant? I know John Keel mentioned it in passing. I was like, is it like in the outskirts? Was it like a lot and like no one just talked about it?
I don't remember hearing much about it until Patty, Patty, and that was afterwards.
I go back and forth on that one because it doesn't match any other stuff we're hearing now.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's a fun subject to look at.
But the only time I ever heard about it, I heard it was called the Hairy Man, and that was right down below Point Pleasant. And my grandpa, great grandpa, Hambrick.
What?
He rode a horse.
Y'all are Hambricks?
Uh-huh.
My mom's maiden name's Hambrick. Are we related?
Synchronicity. Oh, well, I imagine we probably are.
I got a Papaw Hambrick too.
Yeah. John was his name.
Wow. Okay.
That's pretty cool, isn't it? So you have to go to the Hambrick if you come down and go to the Mothman Festival, I'll take you to the Hambrick Cemetery because it's not very far.
Oh, now I've got to.
And that's where where she saw the hairy man. And my grandpa used to deliver the mail on horseback, and he wouldn't let them go out at night because of the hairy man.
You say
and
John
I asked,
Hambrick?
And her name was Luna, the moon. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
HAMBRICK.
Same spelling.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of that? See, that's called synchronicity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in coincidences. I think we were supposed to meet.
That was your grandpa?
That was my grandma. My dad's mother was a Hambrick. Mm-hmm.
I know I traced them just from the free version of Ancestry.com or whatever.
That I thought you'll find John. And
it was like 4 or 5 generations they were in Virginia, and then they've been in Alabama and Southern Tennessee since like the 1800s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they probably same bunch.
Yeah. And what was your grandpa's first name?
His first name was Elmer, but he went by Jack.
Jack. I'll see if we aren't somewhere on the same tree, but I bet we are.
Grady was his dad's name.
Grady. Okay.
It's crazy. Mm-hmm. Hambrick. It's like a Scottish thing, so it's like Smith. But here's a funny thing that happens around. Here's a funny thing that happens around here with Hambricks is a lot of there's a big African American clan of Hambricks, which means they took our last name.
Yep.
A long time ago when something happened. But it's weird because my daughter had a daycare teacher whose last name was Hambrick. I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of them. The reason I spelled it is because there's some called hammock.
Yeah.
Or hamrick. Hamrick. But they are Hambrick. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wild.
Well,
now I got chills.
See, that's glory bumps.
Yep. I like them. I enjoy it. I've been into angel numbers and stuff lately.
Good.
So it doesn't shock me. I got something big coming out and just don't know what it is.
What's the number 212 have to do with anything?
212?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about 212.
Well, you keep watch out for that number, okay?
I have a multiple of 12 something that might mean 12 that I remember, but
okay.
Probably 212.
212. I don't know if it's a birthday, whether it's a time but I got a 212 around you. That's another thing I read people. I'll see people out in the grocery store and my daughter will look in my face and she used to say, oh, please, Mom, don't embarrass me. And I'd say, just go look at the clothes or something.
Stop reading people's auras.
We went to Bimini one year and I read a bunch of people that were down there and I had a whole line we were in this one area in the hotel and the girls were playing pool and I was sitting on the couch and someone said something about me reading people. There was a line clear out the door and down the street. And there's all kinds of guys that were crying. Man, they were crying. They were buying us drinks. It was like, okay.
Was it like when Tim Allen was the Santa Claus and all those kids were in the park?
It was like that.
All the kids were lined up?
Yep.
That's cool.
It's like Bad Santa.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
If you took the main angel number I see, it's 12 divided by 2. Plus that,
6.
it's.
Or if you had 2 and 1 and 2,
like
5, you get 5.
626 and 262 are big angel numbers for me.
Okay,
so
there you go.
So 212 is not far off.
Okay.
All my grandparents had 62 in their phone numbers, and so does my wife. So it's kind of like I was like, oh wow, really? I didn't even notice that till years later.
Numerology is amazing. Yeah.
It's been a great time. I'm glad you came on here.
It's been fun.
This hour and a half passed quick.
Oh, are you kidding?
You lost time again.
Yep, I did.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Hopefully, I can get up there and meet everybody.
Yep.
This
Like
spring.
I said, if you guys don't have any place to stay, just let me know around Mothman time. And,
You can always stay up there in Huntington. Drive 40 minutes. Stay at a Days Inn.
I'm about that far, about 45. But we just go down and get down through Ravenswood. That's not too far that way. You can find me on Google Earth.
One of my next projects is I want to do like a deep dive on the Appalachians, history, lore, and history, folklore, and actual stories. And I'm gonna have to get funding to do it, but I'm gonna have to work on it because it sounds like I start digging deep and it just opens up. It's just like,
yeah,
it's like digging in sand. There's another layer every time you go. Like, what in the world?
Yeah, just drive around down here and you can find all kinds of history. We've got Blennerhassett Island and where Aaron Burr and Harlem Blennerhassett tried to take the government over and make their own government west of that.
I forgot about that.
Alleghenies. Oh gee, there's a lot of pretty places down here by the river.